Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, after hearing that Oblong Industries is preparing to announce significant Q3 growth here in 2017, that's all driven by adoption of their Huddle room technology, I thought it was time to get them back on the show. Because we've spoken to the guys at Oblong before about how the technology that was first showcased in movies such as The Minority Report is now taking over corporate meeting rooms. And it's the likes of Adobe, AirBus, Lockheed Martin and Workday that are among the newest companies that are now investing in collaboration systems that support the future of work to enhance enterprise-wide productivity, all at user level. But there are a few other factors that are helping this trend too. So I invited Dave Kung from Oblong to find out more about how companies are upgrading their Huddle rooms. So buckle up, hold on tight, because I'm going to beam your ears all the way back to LA so we can speak with Dave Kung from Oblong Industries. So a big warm welcome to the show, David. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely, Neil, and thank you so much for inviting us to your podcast. I'm David Kung. I'm with the product team at Oblong Industries. My main focus is on product strategy for Mezzanine, which is our immersive visual collaboration offering.
Now, I believe that Oblong Industries is experienced significant growth this year, and a lot of that's been driven by the adoption of the Huddle room technology. But for anyone that's listening that is unfamiliar with the term Huddle room or Huddle technology, can you help them visualize exactly what Huddle room is and the technology that you're implementing for businesses all over the world at the moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll answer it at least in terms of how we think about Huddle rooms. Generally speaking, this whole movement towards Huddle rooms is about democratizing access to video. Lower cost offerings in terms of in-room hardware and on-prem infrastructure, as well as, of course, cloud alternatives. They're making it much more affordable for an enterprise to video enable more spaces. So while in the past it was cost prohibitive to video enable a small meeting space, right? Like a room that could fit 5 to 7 people max. You might only put a speakerphone in there or just a display to plug a device into. But now you can video enable that room with a low-end codec or a USB camera, or just leveraging BYOD and pure cloud conferencing options that people bring into the room. So for us, and where we saw the growth, was all around our new product, Mezzanine 200. So earlier this year, we unveiled a full product family because we recognize that teams and business problems, they come in all sizes, right? And so should Mezzanine. So we have offerings from everything from large executive briefing and customer engagement centers to medium and large meeting rooms. And with Mezzanine 200, we have an offering appropriate to that smaller footprint of Huddle rooms. We had customers who said, "Oh, Oblong, we love Mezzanine. And I have the perfect room. It's just too small." So with Mezzanine 200, we give you all the benefits of immersive visual collaboration on a smaller scale. It wraps around your traditional dual display video conferencing infrastructure. So whether you're enhancing existing investments or video enabling a room for the very first time, you can now do so much more in that room than traditional conferencing and truly enable more advanced collaboration.
Now, Adobe, AirBus, Lockheed Martin and Workday are just a few names that are among the newest companies that are investing heavily now in these collaboration systems that support the future of work to enhance enterprise-wide productivity at the user level. I mean, can you offer an overview on this? It seems quite an exciting shift in culture change, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely when you think about enterprise-wide productivity, of course, it's increasingly distributed. And so in order to support not only present but the future of work, it really demands that all collaborators be first-class citizens, regardless of technology and location. And it really is that notion of first-class citizens when it comes to technology. So for example, you can have a state-of-the-art conferencing room in your meeting room, but almost every meeting involves remoters, right? Yeah. And in many ways, in how a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, the collaborative potential of any meeting is often defined by the individual with the least amount of technology. So more often than not, that individual or group of individuals who are remote, they don't have state-of-the-art video conferencing. They might just have their laptop or their mobile device. And so their inability to see what everyone else in the room is looking at, or ability to truly influence what those people or what everyone in the meeting is looking at, their inability to freely contribute to the meeting without waiting for someone to grant them access to do so, right? That's a key reason why meetings aren't as effective as they could be. So with Mezzanine, we're bridging that asymmetry of capabilities between the on-prem collaborators and the remote workers. So we're able to extend the room experience to the edge and give remote workers all the rights and privileges of in-room participants. They can see what everyone else is looking at across the screens. They can influence what everyone is looking at, and they can do it as freely as anyone in the room. And that's what's so critical. It's why Adobe is using Mezzanine to explore new work processes in support of application design and development. AirBus came to us needing to improve remote collaboration. Workday wants to better connect their multi-use rooms to remote teams. And so our ability to really make all collaborators first-class citizens, regardless of location or technology, we believe is what's really driving this enterprise-wide productivity.
Now, I read two great stats last week. One is that by 2030, the millennial generation will make up 75% of the workforce, which is amazing on its own before you even get to the fact that Gen Z or Gen Z are now coming into the workplace too. And they're the first entirely generation of digital natives that can't remember a time of iPhone. So it shows you how things are going to change there. But the second was also the adoption of enterprise video conferencing that is expected to increase 400% by 2019, which is incredibly close, especially with Huddle rooms growing year on year by 10%. I mean, can you expand on those findings a little, and also how Oblong technology will help meet those new 21st century requirements for business?
Yeah, I love how you use the term digital natives. If you think about millennials, right, yeah. and digital natives in general, I mean, even old farts like ourselves who are, Gen X, but it's all about digital dexterity, right? It's about being comfortable with new technologies, but especially millennials. It's not just being comfortable with new technologies, but they want to engage with technology on their terms, right? So if you think about traditional meeting rooms or traditional video conferencing, to what extent do they embrace new technologies? To what extent do traditional tools let users participate on their own terms? And for the most part, right, they don't, right? The user interfaces are very antiquated, and the overall user experience is very limited. And if you think about, what are some of the traits that millennials are most known for, right? It's self-expression and sharing content, right? It's I took a picture of my meal, right? Now, and self-expression and sharing content are two things that enterprise video conferencing is very, very poor at. Right? Yeah. Only one person can share a thing at a time. Only one piece of content can be shared at a time, right? So these millennials expect a higher degree of freedom as well as innovation, right? So with Mezzanine, we try to deliver a next generation user experience. So we have, what we call our spatial wand, right? So millennials who grew up with the Nintendo Wii, right? They'll feel right at home manipulating the Mezzanine workspace. Right, and we'll delight them further with the ability to interact across multiple screens, right? So you're not just pointing at one screen, but really orchestrating an entire room. And so when everyone is empowered to interact with Mezzanine on their own terms, with whichever device they feel most comfortable with, whether it's their laptop or mobile device, that's when you really get into a much more sense of active participation, of active self-expression and sharing, as opposed to a lot of meetings today where it's like, I'm going to call in, and I'm just going to go on video mute, and I'm going to multitask and update my Instagram while all the meeting's going on, because there's too many places to hide, and there's too many obstacles in place that prohibit that self-expression and sharing. So we think the more of that you can support, the more millennials will be engaged, and definitely the more utilized enterprise video conferencing would be as it continues to grow through 2019.
And they're not as patient as old guys like myself and you, are they? Around frustration and pain points and friction points, they just don't do it because they've got different expectation levels.
Yeah, and I think definitely you see a changing landscape within IT. There's quote unquote shadow IT, where probably one of the biggest disruptions was smartphones, right? and more so you see how IT needs to really have a strong BYOD strategy, for this new workforce that's coming in. And so we think, especially as you think about, whether it's, video conferencing and how do you appeal to millennials, not restricting them to say, here, you must use our remote control or you must use our tablet, but really saying, no, you could interact with our systems on your terms. Use your laptop, use your mobile phone, use our tools. And that's been very much the philosophy we have, is whatever device you feel most comfortable with and the most confident with you should be able to use that within the context of a meeting.
It's a great point you made there about shadow IT, because of course traditionally IT departments have said to the business departments there that if you want this piece of software or you want this project, yeah, we'll get it done for you in 18 months to 2 years. Whereas now they just go away, pick up the phone, and whoever picks up the other side was just going to say, yeah, we can do this for you, and you don't need to tell your IT department. That's the opening line, isn't it?
Yeah, and it gets really challenging, especially with enterprise video conferencing, because everyone experiences the pain of, I have 5 different tools for video conferencing. I have Skype, I have Zoom, I have BlueJeans, I have WebEx, I have Skype for Business. And it's because you're not just talking with people within your enterprise. You need to talk to customers, clients, what have you. And everyone has different tools that their individual companies have chosen. And so you run into the whole, mess of, if you want to talk to, person X, Y, or Z and company A, B, or C, the first question you have is, what's the best way to reach you? And so, and it's something enterprises are really struggling with. It's one reason why I guess, cloud bridging services are doing so well, is because they're kind of the babble fish for that mess of different solutions.
So empowered offices in which workers can choose their conditions are said to increase productivity and cognitive tasks by up to 25%. Can you tell me more about that and how this technology is improving productivity? And also, are there any use cases that you can share with us today that will just help listeners visualize what a difference it's making?
Oh, sure. And wow, I love that you use the term cognitive tasks. Because it's a very kind of academic term, but it's something that we take very much to heart. And I'll get into that in a bit. But if you think about empowered offices, I think part of it is this letting workers kind of choose between 2 primary options, right? Especially with this whole movement towards open floor plans. But I think giving, knowledge workers a choice between, say, focus rooms, right? Rooms that eliminate distraction. They afford privacy. They let you do your heads down individual work. So it's fairly self-evident, right, that if you remove distraction, if you increase focus, you're going to increase productivity, right? Yeah. So that's kind of like the first option. But things get really interesting in what I think is the second option. And I bet these are empowered offices where workers can choose collaboration spaces, right? And oftentimes they're choosing huddle rooms as these collaboration spaces. So what about these collaboration spaces increase productivity on cognitive tasks? And I think it's about the walls, right? And you think about, what are you hiring walls to do? So in a focus room for an individual knowledge work, right, the job for the walls is to eliminate distraction, is to give you privacy. But the job of walls in collaboration is totally different. It's not about isolating, it's about collaborating. It's like the walls are a surface for expression. And so walls give you this intrinsic benefit of just being a large canvas that can accommodate more content than you and your collaborators might see on a single screen or a device. But actually goes way beyond that. So like what we see with our customers when they're using mezzanine, like when they're able to organize and experience content in space, literally in space, not just on one screen or one big screen or one wall, but across the different walls and surfaces in their environment. At that point, you're leveraging higher level cognitive functions, right? You're actually leveraging visual thinking and spatial reasoning. It's like you've suddenly taken the horse blinders off, and so you're literally thinking in a new way. You literally are applying more of your cognitive mind to try to solve a problem, to try to understand a problem. Like in terms of examples in the analog world, that's why we gravitate to whiteboards, right, and sticky notes, right? Because we can leverage visual thinking, spatial reasoning. We can put them up all over the walls around us. And in the digital world, it's why our customers gravitate to mezzanine, right? It gives you that large multi-screen and truly physical immersive visual sandbox that enables new and innovative ways of thinking. And I think it's, we're early right now in the development, but I think it's kind of where digital whiteboarding solutions are kind of missing it a little bit, right? I mean, it's great that they've turned a touchscreen into a whiteboard. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, you get persistence, et cetera. But just that limited size, right? Mm-hmm. You lose the supporting affordances of advanced cognition, right? And so that's why we think people gravitate to mezzanine. It gives them access to those parts of the brain that you just can't apply in other environments.
So there are over 45 million Huddle rooms in use globally at the moment, but the scale of technology investments are a little bit disproportionate to the current number of rooms in use. I mean, why do you think this is? And are you noticing a shift in attitudes now?
Yeah, I think it's really a factor of economics. I mean, especially at the scale of rooms, the numbers, they add up real fast. Like let's say you have 100 rooms across your state, even a very conservative budget of say $10,000 per room, quickly you're at $1 million, right? Yeah. So, but we are seeing a shift in attitudes, but it's a little different. It isn't just driven by economics, but it's really driven by use case. So if you think about traditional video conferencing rooms, they were purpose built for room-to-room communication, right? But they did a very poor job of supporting just very basic meetings, right? If you just want to share content with others in the room, or if you want to share with remoters or share with non-video enabled spaces, they don't really do a good job of that. So beyond the exclusivity of those video conferencing rooms and limited access for the day-to-day knowledge workers to be in those rooms, their inability to support share functions contributed to a generally low utilization. So part of the shift we're seeing in customers is they want more. They want their rooms to be multifunctional, right? They want to be able to support more use cases than just room-to-room communication. And I think that's driving a lot of the excitement in Huddle Room products, like Surface Hub, like Spark boards, like Jamboards, because they're multifunction devices that let you do more than just a video call. Now for us, what's interesting is that customers are very interested in using our Mezzanine 200 system as a way to upgrade their existing infrastructure of dual display video conferencing, right? Yeah. So instead of ripping and replacing one codec and then great, you get a better codec, but you won't get that better collaboration experience, right? That lets you surface more content and encourage more participation. So what we're seeing now is that customers are saying, wait, I don't want to replace my codec. I want to bring in enhanced capabilities for advanced participation and collaboration. And they're using Mezzanine as a way to do that, to let people really do more in the room than just room-to-room communication, but really meet, share, active collaboration for remoters as well as other rooms themselves.
It really seems that this technology is heading into the mainstream now as well. I mean, almost every sports pundit on TV will be using a touchscreen to highlight key plays or replays, etc. But can you tell me more about how it helps users simultaneously collaborate across those multiple data streams, but also all in real time?
Yeah, touch helps, but it also hurts in some ways. Yeah. So here's where it helps, and it's a huge benefit, right? Which is that tangible interaction. Right? You as a user, you feel more engaged. You can direct focus. You can convey emphasis to others in the room based on, where you place content or how large you make it. But that's also where it hurts, right? Because in the process of doing it, you're obscuring the view of all the others, right? Like you mentioned, all the sports pundits, right? They scribble on the screen, then they rapidly run back to the side of the screen and address the camera. But also what happens is with these interfaces that you often do sort of that, is the picture frame straight kind of dance, because you have to get close to manipulate the content, but then you have to walk a few steps back to literally see the big picture. But also, I think for like within sports and television and news, it kind of works in terms of being able to annotate content. But in an actual meeting space, you get to a position now where you're crowding around a single screen, which isn't a great experience. I mean, for folks like me who are a little smaller and shorter than others, if everyone's crowded around, even a large 75-inch display, it's not the great ideal experience. So that's why with us, we take a spatial approach. So what we're able to do with our spatial wands is now you can let anyone place content anywhere in the room from anywhere in the room, right? So you get all those affordances of tangible interaction. You get those affordances of being able to direct people's focus. You can move and orchestrate all these multiple data streams, but you can do it all, from the comfort of your chair, and you can do it all in real time with others. You're not competing with who's directly in front of the screen. Everyone has equal access, to those displays, to that content. And that's critical when you're managing, multiple streams of content.
So how do you see all these trends that we've spoken about today are actually going to reshape collaboration within the enterprise workplace?
Yeah, I kind of think of it in terms of just different, almost like problem spaces. And we mentioned this earlier, right? You must think about collaboration within a distributed context. How do you connect different locations and individuals, but deliver an experience that's comparable and hopefully, better than everyone being in the same room, right? I mean, that's just not a reality anymore. So you have to think about how within a distributed context you can deliver the same value as if everyone were in the same room. In addition, I think collaboration needs to be far more content-centric. In the past, it was far more, some people say video-centric or more face-centric, right? I mean, those are important. Those are critical human factors in terms of seeing people and, reading the whites of their eyes. But when you're doing work, it's equally as important to read the whites of your spreadsheet, right, of each cell. So being able to bring more content so it's easier to share, see, and manage content is going to be essential. And then, the third piece is related to what we spoke about with millennials, which is becoming more people-centric. Think about how collaboration can really encourage participation and remove barriers to access. Really give the best approximation as if we were all in the same table. Like if we were all around the same table talking, I wouldn't have to say, okay, Neil, I'm going to pass access to you now, and now you can speak and show me something, right? It's totally inorganic. So we need to be more people-centric. And then I think the last part is, really think about the role of place in the enterprise workplace. Let's think about the physical space, not just reshaping collaboration in a Slack channel or a video call, but how do you reshape collaboration in the real world, right? And that's what so many of our customers like about what we're doing. With Mezzanine, we're helping large organizations solve very complex problems through enhanced collaboration that is people and content centric. So they're empowered, and we're enabling a far more distributed, workforce, and giving them greater access to and the sharing of all this data that we have, at hand. And in doing so, right, our customers, the whole point of it is to drive competitive advantage, right, to better leverage their investments in people and in space. And we, our hope is on our best days and on our customers' best days, we make that happen.
So what's next for Oblong? Is there anything else that you can share with us today?
Oh, yeah, I got some real exciting stuff. We're laser focused on just making it easier for folks to meet and share. So some of it is just nuts and bolts. So now with Exchange integration, with Skype for Business integration, we can enable advanced collaboration with a single click. And it's all advanced collaboration that builds upon customers' existing investments in technology and infrastructure. We're launching a new application that supports Mezzanine that is called Mezzanine Screencast. So we'll have auto discovery as part of it. So when you walk into a Mezzanine room, just your presence in the room will connect you to Mezzanine. So that will make things like just wireless screen sharing just even easier than ever before. But that's just the beginning, right? So we're also adding, advanced kind of meeting support functions. So you walk into the room, you open your laptop, Mezzanine Screencast, automatically discovers a Mezzanine, you're connected, and then with one click, you can join, start a meeting, invite others into the meeting, all from this application. And then I think the last big thing that's when this all comes together, it's quite thrilling. We're doing some really amazing UI enhancements. So we're going to be automating a lot of the window management, especially because we are dealing with multiple streams of content being introduced in real time from different sources. We're going to really kind of automate those functions. So we always give you the best content experience. And you don't necessarily have to learn how to use the interface. The interface will adapt to your needs and picture-in-picture content. And then when you no longer need to, put a content in a small window, it will automatically go back to full screen. So we're doing a lot of work there on just making it easier for folks to to meet and share and truly collaborate at a higher level.
Fantastic, incredibly exciting stuff that we're talking about here. But so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of questions to ask. So before I let you go, can you remind the listeners of where they can find out more about you on the web, and also how they can contact your team if they just got any further questions about anything that we've spoken about today?
Oh, sure thing. They can visit us at oblong.com, so www.oblong.com. And then the best way to actually engage with us is to visit one of our sales centers. So if you go to oblong.com/demo, you can sign up for a visit, but you can also see where all our different locations are. So we have multiple locations across the U.S. Of course, we do have a location as well in London, Barcelona, and in Germany now as well. So definitely for folks in North America as well as the EU. And then, of course, we have partners as well who have demos of Mezzanine at some of their sites. But we'd encourage everyone to visit us at oblong.com.
Excellent. Well, Oblong is something that I've been following for some time now. I think I spoke to David Marvitt from Fujitsu and how they were using Oblong a few years ago. And also more recently, I spoke to, I think it's Oblong CEO John Underkoffler, and he was a science advisor to Steven Spielberg on Minority Report with Oblong. And he was telling me also about him using it in a CBS show called 48 Hours NCIS. But it's great to hear you talking now about actually increasing productivity and those cognitive tasks in business, and that's something that's going to affect us all. And that's a great story. It's quite inspirational and very innovative. So a huge thanks for coming on and sharing your story today.
Oh, and thank you for having us.
Oblong is helping companies equip huddle rooms with scalable tools that leverage the disruptive power of spatial computing technology, or to help users simultaneously collaborate across multiple data streams, all in real time. But it's how they are reshaping collaboration within the enterprise workplace that I find nothing short of fascinating. I mean, anything that stops that one person from dominating a meeting can only be a great thing, right? A meeting should allow everyone to have their say and seamlessly throw content onto a screen to highlight the point that they want to make. And the way Oblong removes all friction points and pain points of the old way of doing things, whether it be searching for a display adapter dongle or USB drive, is a big step forward. We've all been in a meeting room a few minutes before it's to start, having that tech meltdown as you're frantically trying to get that presentation on the screen. But have you been able to see this Oblong technology in action? Let me know your thoughts. As always, you can tweet me at Neil C. Hughes or email me directly at techblogwriter@outlook.com, because I genuinely want to hear your thoughts on this, and anyone that's seen the old way of doing things in those crusty meeting rooms versus what a lot of companies are doing now, but adding technology to these huddle rooms. So I'd love to hear if you've been on either side of that fence. But as always, I will sit in my man cave now, waiting to hear from you and where you listen to the show. But as I close the doors off, I just wanted to say a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.